All right. Today we have Mimi, Shadow, Joe, and Matt on our comics discussion panel. Feel free to make this your own open forum for discussing whatever you think is relevant to the topic. I'm going to offer out some guided questions, but really it's your show, so just take it away. What age did you start reading comics, for starters, just to get some background here?
Ladies first.
Oh, geez. That's a long time ago. Man, that was like 25 years ago.
You can ballpark.
Giving away my age. I would definitely say the early 90s X-Men cartoon is what got me into comics. I started watching the cartoon because, that's what you did. You came home after school, you watched X-Men, Power Rangers, and all that stuff. And then so I would go to school, and I went to school in military housing, so a lot of my friends their parents were in the Navy and stuff like that, so, tons of little different interests and stuff like that, so, we go to school like, oh man, did you see X-Men last night? And it would be like, my dad brought me this from Japan, and it would be like a comic book that none of us have ever seen before. So that's basically how I got into comics. It was just like, because it was something new, it was really different at the time. Sorry, my dog doesn't want to. What do you want to do? This is Mage. He's usually Spider-Man as well, but he didn't want to dress up. But, I've been reading comics on and off for a long time. Like I said, I started reading in school. There were the small dark ages where I didn't read comics because it wasn't cool for girls to read comics at the time, so there was that whole cultural aspect. But moving on to the future, like where we are right now, I think that it's fantastic how many different comics there are. There literally is something for everybody. So, that's awesome.
Same with me. I grew up, Fox Kids, Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, Power Rangers. And while I had collected random comic books from like yard sales back then, I didn't really grasp it at that point. As I got older and got more into it, I actually didn't start officially full-blown like reading storylines and all that stuff until I was almost out of high school, like around 17, 18. But I had collected stuff just to collect. Oh, this looks nice. Okay, good. Like I had the infamous Spider-Man issue where his parents came back, but they weren't his parents. It was Chameleon. It was a whole but I didn't realize at that point. I didn't know that was a part of a full storyline. But as I got older and appreciated storytelling more, I started collecting a lot more. And what we have now, like, okay, back in the day, Power Rangers, #1, been there all the time. Now we have probably the greatest Power Rangers comic book that they've ever done, and it's absolutely amazing. But we didn't have that back then, but now we do. And so having that progression grow up, it was really fun. So yeah, my first one was around 15, 14, 17.
I think Wikipedia and the internet really helps.
Yes.
Because you pick
really
one
good.
person and then you're lost, and then 3 hours later you're like, wait.
I actually started in the library, actually. We go to my public library, and my first full-blown storyline that I actually read and finished at the library, you'll appreciate this, was the Sinestro War in Green Lantern. From start to finish. They missed a couple issues, but it was the volume, so start to finish, read that full storyline. That's when I got more into reading full-blown storylines and comics at that point. So at the library, not the comic shop, which was kind of weird.
Okay, I started extremely young. One of my first comics was DC's Who's Who, volume 3 or 4. So this is very, very old. I was in the hospital for an extremely long time, so I read comics there. Been reading all my life, and then I got into a much larger influx of comics when we lived abroad. Because my sister was just born, we lived in Korea, and a lot of the toys were snapped together model kits, so we just got comics for me. So I've had like all sorts of stuff. I have like the issue where it's the therapy session for the Incredible Hulk, where it's Banner, Hulk, Green Hulk, and Gray Hulk sitting in therapy chairs, talking to Doc Samson. I've collected the JLI, which I also costume as Blue Beetle. I've just been loving comics the entire time. I have the entirety of Green Lantern from the time Kyle Rayner got his ring until now. That's like 110 trades I have. I collect Starman, which I'm currently costuming is Starman from the James Robinson Jack Knight series. That's a good 10 trades, but God, that thing is amazing. I've breed so far out there because barely anybody's ever heard of half the characters I costume. I costume Ambush Bug. I costume Wesley Dodd's Sandman from the Sandman Mystery Theater series. The Blue Beetle from the Blue Beetle series. Justice League International. I can't believe it's not the Justice League. I still can't believe it's the Justice League. I have some Marvel. I grew up on Spider-Man, much like a lot of us did. The Fox Kids afternoon and Saturday mornings. Grew up with that. I'm a little older than they are, so I'm still old enough to remember Challenge of the Super Friends and
I remember, yeah.
the Superman animated series from the 80s where Tony J did like all the voice work for the villains. So having a super like rumbly.
Is that the super like really stylized animated one?
No, yeah. That's the one where Firestorm and Cyborg are part of the Justice
Oh,
League?
no. I was thinking of something else, like the original like animated one where it's like, it's a very different style.
Oh, yeah. I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I still read comics to this day. I go every 2 weeks to my local comic book store, which if anybody reads comics, definitely support like the library, definitely support the local comic store. Digital is definitely a way to go if you want to try and backtrack, but if you want the new stuff, definitely go support your local comic shop.
Library's Comic City.
Yep.
Hi, Matt Nixon. Let's see, I can do older than all you guys.
Well, I'm close second.
Yeah, so I've been reading comics since the 70s. I stole them from my older brothers, and kind of, I think my first book was an Iron Fist where Sabretooth appeared for the first time.
Nice.
And that brought me into the X-Men world, and I'm a big X-Men fan. But so I'd say I've been reading comics since 5 or 6, probably helped me learn how to read. And so I started, creating comic books in 1997. Moved from Ann Arbor, Michigan to New York City and started writing. The first gig I got was Conan the Barbarian, which is weird that I got that fast. But I got Conan the Barbarian and then moved over to doing some X-Men backup and some Wolverine. So I've been doing it for a while and I stuck with it. And now I'm doing creator-owned, which is actually far more fun than doing licensed work. It's much more rewarding too.
Do you get like a certain amount of freedom with it? Or?
Every bit of freedom you can possibly imagine. Image didn't ask me to change a single thing about my book. They were just go ahead and do it how you want to do it. Consequently means you're kind of out there in limbo on your own. You don't have a lot of feedback, so it helps to have people giving you feedback, editors if you can afford them, but friends and family are good editors, so that's the way to do it.
That's awesome.
Cool. See, well, in the course of the last question's answers, you guys answered a couple of the following questions. Which comic writers are your favorites, or do you have them?
Oh, man.
You can go ahead first, I'm still thinking.
He's both a comic writer and a animated series writer. Dwayne McDuffie. He worked on Milestone, Static Shock, all the ones that created on Milestone. And he went from there, focused more on the animated series. The DC animated series shaped my love of comic books. Everything else that came before and podcasts and everything was great and it helped me out, but I wouldn't have the love I have for DC now if it wasn't for that series. And he's a main pivotal part of writing for that, especially for Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. And it was sad when he passed. I would really would like to meet him eventually, but he's one of my favorite writers. And of course, Kyle Higgins right now, he's writing Power Rangers, so it's a good series. I'm sorry, I can't fanboy enough. Those are my two for right now.
I got quite a myriad.
And he's awesome.
Yeah. Green Lantern, let me think. For Green Lantern, Jeff Johns goes without saying because he revitalized that series. Peter J. Tomasi for, I believe, his work on Green Lantern Corps. Green Lantern Corps. I'll have to look. I have so many, I don't know where it is. Robert Venditti for his 5-year stint on Green Lantern. Gosh, who else is there? James Robinson and Tony Harris for Starman. I love that series to death. Again, Jeff Johns for his work on JSA, similar to James Robinson. Gosh, who else is there? Daryl Banks, I think is right. Is it Daryl Banks? Daryl Banks for his work on Green Lantern, because without him, I wouldn't have Kyle Rayner. Marv Wolfman and George Perez, I think those two go without saying their contribution to comic books in general, their work on Teen Titans, Crisis on Infinite Earth, that those are probably the two most prolific people in my love of comic book authors and artists.
I haven't really read anything consistently enough, probably. I'm definitely a huge fan of I can look at his name, Bendis, Brian Michael Bendis. I like what he's done. Frank Miller as well. I would probably say most of his Frank Miller's arts are probably with Sin City, any of the dark arts that he did for like Daredevil and stuff like that. That definitely got me through my moody early 20s. Super moody back then, so that was probably what I was reading the most of then, and then kind of jumping around with everything else. I'm a huge Marvel fan, so it's mostly just Marvel for me. I love all of the female writers they have on board right now. It's definitely it's nice. Obviously, it's nice to see the female writers on board because it's no discrimination, but we're getting a lot more representation. There's a lot more. You got Miss America Chavez. She's a minority. She's a lesbian. We're expanding past just the usual big buff guy. So it's I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. Like that's what I'm happy about. That's what makes me excited to read more comics. Is that we're getting such a big reach of different topics, different groups of people, different things, and then you have people like Bendis who's not afraid to push that boundary. You have people like Frank Miller that will go dark. It's not just super happy save the day, got the cat down in the tree. It's dark, but it's fun at the same time. It's interesting, and I think I really like comics ago. People are saying that comics are kind of slowing down and it's kind of dying. I don't think so. I think everything's more story driven opposed to maybe about 10 years ago. I'd say art was definitely the big push, but now it's a lot more the storyline that's being driven, and that's encouraging artists, like, people, not just people making up their own books, but like, I sell an artist alley at conventions, so I'm constantly surrounded by artists that are doing their own work, and it's amazing how much, and then, you talk to the artists, and they're like, so what's your inspiration? It's like, oh, I was reading this comic, and then I got the idea, like, well, what if, there was a little person living in this human world, but they've never, encountered humans, how would they react to, walking into a Starbucks and they've never seen coffee before, like, can you imagine never not knowing what coffee is? Like, that's kind of, it's like you see more story-driven work now, and I think that's definitely a good thing.
I should just thought of 3 more people. Len Wein, Kevin McGuire, and J.M. DeMatteis. Those guys pretty much shaped my childhood to them too.
Got to toss out Tom Taylor too. His work on Injustice. So just as dark as that story was,
it consistently gets better each year.
Yeah, like everything he wrote in that universe, and it's not canon to anything else. It's just that universe, and it works so well. He wrote so good for that series. So that's my 3. Yeah. Cool.
So I grew up on John Byrne and Chris Claremont doing X-Men stuff back in the day. Yeah, those were the guys. I mean, Claremont's probably my biggest writing influence, but then when Byrne was writing Fantastic Four, I was really into that. And then he took over some Superman and Batman books and did a really crazy good job with those as well. So I remember some of the conflicts that he put in place between Batman and Superman that a lot of people use to this day.
Yep.
And lately, Kate Leff did a great job on Hellcat. That's a woman writer, and Gail Simone. She handles all DC books very well, but the Domino book she's doing right now is fantastic. Can't recommend her stuff enough. But I really think that, so I started in comics in '97, something like that. That was when everybody was saying comics were gone. They were not gonna do anything anymore. It was vaudeville. Marvel was bankrupt. It was a really, really bad time. Right now, comic books are so diverse and vital, and cosplayers make it a huge thing too. It creates this festival atmosphere where people wanna join in, and the inclusiveness of comic books. It's hard to, maybe role-playing games have the same kind of inclusiveness, but it's really hard to find a hobby that's as inclusive as comics. And I'm really happy to see the diversity come along, because I got bored with comics for a number of years and was just doing writing gigs, doing more journalism stuff than comic books. But when women showed up, when people of color showed up and started creating stuff, I went, wow, comics are cool again, I want to get back involved. So I'm able to do some of the stories I want to do and know that I'll be able to reach an audience that I want to reach. So it's there are a lot of great writers to be influenced by these days.
Which artists are your favorites?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Which artists are your favorites? Like, which ones really stand out to you?
Another style, just get the name.
I still go with John Byrne. He's one of my favorites of all time. And he does do some stuff from time to time, but I think his stuff is kind of dated. But Frank Miller's art is incredible and can't be beat. But lately there's Jeff Lemire is doing some really amazing stuff. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, but his stuff's incredible. It looks like Kirby on acid. I mean, it's very unusual and stylized, but it still fits and looks great.
Is he the one that's doing the artwork for Mr. Miracle, or?
No, that is Mitch Gerard.
God,
He's spectacular. But those two guys together, I mean, they did Sheriff of Baghdad, but now that they're doing this, I don't think did they work together on Vision? They may have.
They did.
Okay, so then they're doing a similar thing with Mr. Miracle, and it's one of the best comic books that have been written. So, as far as the family thing goes, man, King really knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff too.
Let me think. Jose something Garcia?
Let me take a look at my Twitters.
We can
But
look.
I know there's a couple guys that are, so Argentina and a lot of South American artists are in the game right now.
Yeah.
Because it's huge, comics are huge down there. When comics kind of like fell out here, they got huge in other countries, especially South America. So a lot of the artists you're seeing these days.
And then you got some of the ones that do like the really realistic drawings, like Kevin McGuire and Tony Harris.
Lisa Ribic does that stuff too.
Yeah.
Really painted, amazing stuff.
And of course, you know, we can talk about George Perez, Jack Kirby. Gosh, who else is there?
Two of my
Stan Gerard,
favorites are
Stan Gerard, did Stan like...
Stan never drew.
He just wrote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane were two of my favorites
Yes.
growing up.
Yep.
The Image Boys.
Yeah, yeah, two of my favorites.
J. Scott Campbell, again, Power Ranger series. Jim Lee, his work on a lot of the mid 2000 Batman series, like Hush. Great. And
He's a great dude too. I met him out in Hawaii at KawaiiCon. He would do live drawings.
Yeah.
So he'd just have his table out, and just have his tablet up and just be doing live drawings, and people come up and meet him and stuff like that. So it's super cool.
And Bruce Timm's the last one. Like, that's
Yeah.
Because
Huge influence.
Again, going back to DC Universe, wouldn't have none of that without his unique, artistry, like the Art Deco style of Batman animated series. Something so different. So yeah, those are just a few. Like there's a lot. You don't really follow the name of it as much because you're so into the story. But that's something I'm trying to change though. So.
Let me think. Who else? Two other people. I've already said George. I actually got to work as a con assistant for George Perez and watched him draw for like hours on end. I was never bored. Just never bored watching him. And then I also got to work as a con assistant for Mike Grell. He's also just awesome to watch draw. He is best known for taking Green Arrow from Jolly Robin Hood to You Have Failed This City almost.
Yes.
He inspired the darker tone for Green Arrow. He also did Warlord, John Carter of Mars. I think he did some Conan, didn't he?
He may have. Everybody's kind of done some Conan.
Yeah, that's true. So, if you could ever get lucky and as fortunate as I did, because I was very, very fortunate, I was actually friends with the runners of the con. It's called Rocky Mountain Con over in Colorado. And you get to be an art. You get to be a con assistant for the artists. You will never get bored because you just get to watch them draw commissions endlessly. It's some of the most amazing things you'll ever get to see.
That's awesome. Which comic issue, event, or graphic novel is your favorite and why?
Oh dear God.
Oh, no,
Yes,
that's easy.
we're gonna get focused.
That's easy.
One? Does it have to be one?
All right, I'll branch it out to.
Okay. Go. Ladies first.
Spider-Man, the Black issue.
Oh.
Nice.
Okay.
It's a heavy issue.
Definitely.
A very heavy issue, but that would be the one comment that's had me like, I had to read it over and over just to kind of let it absorb. If you don't know what the Black issue is, it's the 9/11 issue.
Yeah.
So it's the 9/11 issue, and it just hits you over and over again, and it's kind of like, I enjoyed reading comics. Comics are enjoyable, and then like when I read the Black issue, it just kind of, you sit there for a while, and you're just kind of like, I can't believe a comic just made me feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe that within just the, 10, 15 pages that I've become so absorbed in every single individual character, and then, like, it wasn't, like, a huge storytelling issue, it wasn't, a big battle or whatever, it was just the aftermath, and it kind of just, like, it humanized all the characters, and then that's definitely what kind of, comics are cool again. Comics are relevant. Comics are a dialogue with what's going on in human society, not just what's going on with the super, what's going on with the villains. It's like, no, this is society. This is what, this could literally be happening right now. How do we know there isn't a Spider-Man? How do we know there isn't a Captain America, So it's a kind of that, it blurred that line between reality and comics, and that's, honestly, I think right now that's kind of what we need. Sometimes that blur, not everything has to be so serious all the time, or it can be serious, and it's okay to be serious. So I would say that would probably be my all-time, favorite issue. And then my current thing right now, obviously I love the Silk series. I love the Spider-Verse right now. Silk is, if you don't know who Silk is a classmate of Peter Parker who also got bitten by the spider. The same spider. She was in the lab too. But instead of embracing her power, she hid away. She was in a bunker for 11 years. So she comes out 11 years later, from 2002 coming out now, and she's all like, is Pokemon still cool? I mean, are we still doing the Macarena? Things like that. So she's like, super awkward. She went into the teenager, and now she's like in her mid-20s, and she doesn't know what's going on. She's trying to relate, but at the same time, she's got these powers, so now it's like Peter Parker, but even more awkward. And it's all of the current stuff going on, and then she happens to be Asian. She's Korean American, so it's that right there. It's like, all right, more Asians in the media, okay. So it's for me. That's what gets me, and then just the whole reality of it, and that's what gets me excited. That's what gets me reading. Because sometimes you put down comics, it gets expensive reading comics. So life happens, and you can't afford to read comics, and you're kind of like, okay, I got this much money, what can I read right now that's gonna keep me interested, and I don't feel like I waste my $5 on an issue. But Silk was one that I can read over and over again, and it's still funny to me. She says funny things like what do you Charizard? To like a villain that she's fighting. So it's just kind of it's funny, and I feel old at the same time reading it because I'm like, oh, okay. So those are probably my two favorites right now. Yeah.
If the Sinestro War was my first time reading comics.
Apparently you were wrong.
Right. my favorite would be the second storyline I read, which was Marvel Civil War. And having read that full through, before playing the off-base game like Marvel Alliance 2, I read that series and it was so great. And having gone back and reread it with everything attached to it, all the tie-ins, everything behind the scenes stuff that's happening with the small people that's not really too relevant to everyone else. That storyline changed my view on Marvel at that point, and I guess enhanced it, because at that point, all it was just the series, an animated series, and then everything that I read from that point on was established from that series. And if I had to have a second, and he knows this, it'd be the one that's going on right now. Power Rangers, first comic book series, comic book storyline. It's called Shattered Grid, and it's just simply amazing. I can't pinpoint enough about it. It's not even finished yet, but what they've done with the comic books and have the storyline, how they established it. If you get a chance, go read the Boom Studios comic book series, Power Rangers. You will not be disappointed at all. So yeah. Joker.
Mo, I actually can put mine down really easy. As much as I think you two are expecting it to be Green Lantern, my absolute favorite comic book is Len Wim's DC Legacies. It is a book that kind of puts into order the entirety of the DC continuity from the Golden Age till now through one man's entire life, where he starts as like a 5-year-old in the, I think the 20s, selling newspapers on the street and dealing with the Newsboy Legion, and then it just proceeds all throughout his life, him and his family, and how he gets married, and they have a daughter, and it's civilian life in the DC universe over time, and it ends with him in the retirement home talking to his caretaker, and he still has the Atom from the Justice Society's business card that he gave him laminated beside him. It's honest. All the artwork is different for every generation and age of the comic book it is. It's just one of my absolute favorite stories. As for current, I would say the Tomasi run on Superman. Has been probably the most enjoyable stories of Superman since his death and Reign of Superman.
I'd say something.
I would have to say the original Secret Wars miniseries came out in the 80s. It's the first time when I was growing up as a teenager, early teenager, we had spinner racks at the grocery stores or the drug stores. So I think I got like issue 5 of the Secret Wars, and then got the subsequent issues, and then that's when I first got into collecting. The idea of collecting, I had to go back and find the other ones, and I had to save up a couple bucks to be able to buy issue 1 that turned out to be like $30, which seemed impossible for me at the time, but I learned how to do it and got that book eventually, and I still have that book. But it would definitely be the Secret Wars. Was a great series, but trying to think of anything really recent. Craven's Last Hunt was really, really good. It was Spider-Man. Yeah, it was that?
That's another dark one.
I wrote that, but that was a really good. Mike Zeck did the art on that, and that was one of the coolest and darkest Spider-Man stories ever. It kind of got into. For Marvel, you know, with DC, you always have the Joker, who's a psychological villain, but for Marvel, they really got into the psychology of this Craven guy who was obsessed with Spider-Man, and it was one of the better ones. If you ever get a chance to see Craven's Last Hunt, that should be a collected book as well. It's definitely worth a read.
That was one of the darker stories at the time, because I don't think Marvel was doing a whole lot of dark stuff.
Not like that.
No.
No, not like that. Not where you got into the psychology of the character. I mean, they put people in bad situations, but in terms of getting inside somebody's head, Craven was.
Yeah.
They put himself into a room full of spiders and dumped himself into tons of spiders so he could eat the spiders and become one with the spider. It was really just the best stuff.
Yeah. That was. I have nightmares about this story.
Yeah. You don't like spiders, you got problems.
Actually, I wonder where our Spider-Man is. Brian was supposed to come.
Yeah.
And I actually gave him, we were at another library event, and they had Death of Craven's, like, can you recommend some good Spider... He didn't even get to finish the sentence, like, read this.
Yeah. Yeah. Great book.
Yeah.
In the past couple of decades, you've been seeing like some similarities or some bleed over, like whenever they make a film adaptation from comic books, and you see how films affect the certain characters. Like I noticed that the X-Men uniforms changed, for a while there. And, does that annoy you, or do you think that's a good thing? Like having the two mediums kind of interact with each other, or are you a purist? Do you want to keep that separate?
I would say that's a double-edged sword. It's good that for new people that are gonna go see the movies and then try to hop into comics, that the movie will influence, so they will look like the movie characters to a degree, but at the same time, some of the stories have become almost dictated by the movie. So, like right now, currently, Iron Man is dead in the comic.
Spoiler alert.
Somewhere. Now, this has been going on for a year, so I don't count it. But when the next Avengers movie comes out, he's going to be alive in the comic books. It's like Lady Thor. Lady Thor, while Thor was off doing stuff, we haven't had a full Thor movie until Ragnarok. It was Jane as Lady Thor, and then when the new Thor movie came out, Ragnarok, Jane has passed, and we're back to normal Thor. DC, thankfully, I don't think adheres that much, but Marvel very heavily does. Like, the same goes with the television. You had Spectacular Series, you had Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, you had Spectacular Spider-Man, and then when the Whedon Avengers came out, both series were canceled, and they were immediately replaced with a more, and I'm not trying to slam Joss Whedon, but a more Whedon-esque version, which was to majority of the viewers a very watered down product of what we were previously getting.
Yeah.
So you have the good and the bad with that.
The best example of it's Wolverine. It happened when I was doing some of the backup stories. He went from 5'2" to 6'2" overnight, and his character changed quite a bit too. In the movies, he's still chomping on cigars, but they did something where they wanted to make the book more accessible to a younger audience, so he quit smoking in the middle of one of my books. He had his fingers like this, and there's nothing in there because they had to airbrush that out. But yeah, but as a writer, I kind of resented that because having a guy light up a cigarette or smoke a cigarette's a good beat in between saying a couple cool lines. So we never got to have the cool lighting up a cigarette.
At least he doesn't vape.
I make that cool. I'm gonna make Wolverine baby.
I can see Laura doing that. Like, that's something Laura would do. Like,
No, but you're right. I wanted to do Wolverine because I make the joke. I made the joke that both myself and kids are always great Wolverine costumers because we're always the right height.
Yeah.
I'm 5'5", so technically I'm taller than Wolverine. One of my favorite lines, and I don't know if this is X-Men or Runaways, is where it's Molly from the Runaways, and she's on the run from the X-Men mansion because she's tired of being there. And then Wolverine comes after her and she goes like, "You better back off. Don't forget I'm stronger than you and I'm taller than you." And she's like 8.
That was a big going joke, though. I mean, was his height. I mean, that was what made him so cool when he fought the Hulk. He was teensy.
yep.
Oh yeah.
And he almost took him out.
And especially as the antithesis to Scott Summers and the fair Regine.
Yeah, perfect antithesis. Those guys work together so well. I always wanted Wolverine to be the leader of the team, but in retrospect, that would have been a disaster.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean, he's a better fit than Scott.
Yeah. Well, he's Uncle Wolverine now.
He's not Patch. He's not
Yeah.
Mandrapool,
No,
Wolverine.
He's not that scary.
Going off what Joe said earlier, like I said, huge animation is what shaped my comic book history. So having a series, amazing series like Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which took some aspect of the movies to that point. I think it was Iron Man 1 and 2 that already come out. So the character, like style of Iron Man, the show was based off, Robert Downey Jr. To have a series like that focus on classic Avengers, classic stories, telling them in an updated light to be replaced by Avengers Assembled. I didn't mind it at first because they looked like the movies. They still had, and it was weird because they still had aspects of Earth's Mightiest Heroes. They still had the same character, I guess, traits or whatever, but it was like, they're just updated. No, if you're gonna do that, make a whole different series and base it off the movie universe. But, I mean,
Everybody's so chatty for no reason.
yeah,
Even Hulk is chatty.
and that goes back to what you said about Joss Whedon. It's a Joss Whedon-esque style of storytelling, which isn't bad, but yeah, it's again a double-edged sword. You take a great series, last 2 seasons, have a great third season for what they set up, and you immediately cancel and go to this.
Yeah.
The only thing I loved about that, and it's kind of a touchy subject, Spectacular Spider-Man, based off the Raimi series. Fantastic series. Fantastic 2 seasons. Great. We got Ultimate Spider-Man after that.
Ooh.
Shush. Getting to the point. Everyone just, because of the popularity and love for Spectacular and how they tell their story, everyone wanted to immediately just dump Ultimate Spider-Man. And I always defend it. I'm like, well, yeah, it's different. Yeah, he's basically Spider-Pool, but that's not what I'm focused on for this series. Look at all the characters they introduced. We never had a white tiger in any animated form. Yeah, we've had Iron Man and Power Man, but you have them younger now. We never had a Nova. So I focused on all the characters they introduced, and same thing for Assemble. Yeah, there's the Avengers and everything, but they introduced so many other characters that hadn't been in the main media yet. We've seen it in the comics, but that's what I focused on, and that's what I used to defend those series. Okay, yeah, it's annoying how they changed and everything, but they introduced this character, and this is someone that we haven't seen from the comics yet. So check it out. Like, we got our first animated Miles in the series. So
I'm excited for it. It's gonna be- yeah.
So despite that, now we're about to have a Miles series. He was already introduced in that series. Kids know him now. So now the movie comes out. Oh, hey, that's that kid that was in Ultimate Spider-Man, 1999 movie. That's what I look at. That's the great edge of the sword where it's annoying, but look at the character that they've introduced. So
it'd be something like the Harley Quinn effect.
Yeah.
yes.
So a little more positivity, and I would have to say this is from the geek girl side. Growing up, it wasn't cool to be a geek like it is now. It wasn't really. You were a little bit weird, or you were a tomboy. That's all it was. Those were the only two ways around it. And now, kind of the double-edged sword where you have the Marvel shows. You have the Runaways. You have Cloak and Dagger, which are based on the books, characters that have been established before, but it's a whole new take on it. Like, I enjoyed the Runaways. It was a teen drama. Like, there's no way around it. It was a teen drama. It was, Dawson's Creek with mutants. Or special powered people.
No, they're mutants.
Are they mutants? They were canon? Yeah.
They confirmed they're mutants. Yeah.
So it's it makes it more accessible. It makes it okay to watch. I just started on Cloak and Dagger. I saw the first episode, and it doesn't read like a comic book. It doesn't, which is it goes back to the whole double-edged sword. It's like when you watch a comic show, do you want to see your book come alive on TV, or do you see a new story with characters that you're familiar with? So it goes back to that double-edged sword. It makes it more accessible. I think that people are more likely to Netflix and chill watching Jessica Jones, watching Daredevil, watching, Luke Cage, which is phenomenal. And, it's characters that are established, but they're different enough that it doesn't feel like you're reading a book. It doesn't feel like you're watching a book. So, and then it makes it okay, because, you can just be like, this is my soap opera, this is my General Hospital. It happens to be about mutants, so I think that's great. I haven't really gone into a lot of the DC shows. I mean, I did watch the first season of it's time traveling one.
Legends.
I did watch Legends. I watched a little bit of Green Arrow, and I liked it. I'm just not a DC fan. I'm sorry, guys. But,
It happens.
It happens, and it's just it's too moody for me almost, which is funny because I got into comics for the moodiness, but DC sometimes comes out a little too moody.
All you gotta do is jump straight to season 2 for Legends of Tomorrow, then they go full goof.
Yeah.
Okay, I might have to do that, but like I said, it's
Watch a lot of Flash. It's a lot more brighter than the rest of the show.
Yeah.
It adds dark moments, but
I tried watching Gotham and I couldn't get it.
okay,
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that.
That falls under the everybody doesn't need to know everybody before something happens scenario.
It's in the same category as Generation X, and that's something we
You
don't talk
would
about.
no. So, but
I like
we
Generation
don't-
X.
we
That was a
don't
good
talk
TV
about-
movie.
we don't talk about
We don't
what
talk
was that?
Oh,
who
right.
were those people on the moon? The Inhumans.
We don't talk about them.
We don't talk about Inhumans. But like I said, just having so many shows, and then you can casually drop into it. You can casually watch the shows without having to know the entire backstory of what happened. And I think that's a good thing for people now.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily, you know, for the fan. It's not necessarily for the fans. It's for everybody, and it's that whole inclusiveness of
And they can
the
become
community.
fans
Yeah, they become
after they
fans.
watch it.
And you
It's a
know, we're on the
gateway
convention
drug.
scene
It
a lot,
is.
so
Shows, yeah.
we're seeing more people come into conventions. We have more friends now, you know, there's more people that we could talk to and just not be like, you know, I watched this last night. Like, you know, it's kind of like,
Oh, you did what? Did you see that?
like, you know, we went to see Infinity Wars completely separate. We ended up in the same theater, and we ended up crying afterwards together. Like, we were just in a pile of stuff.
If it wasn't for him, I'd be joking right now. He
We were-
mended me that night.
We were all just there, just hugging the dog. Like,
I made it out okay.
Oh, hush. You don't feel things. Yeah, like that reaction, that having that medium, like you said, it's a gateway drug. Our gateway drug into it was the animated series. Kids nowadays have TV shows, they have movies now. So, and we had movies back in the day too. They, you know,
Not like this.
not like this.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, do we want to talk about?
No.
Talk about more.
No, I was gonna say the Trial of Incredible Hulk and Death of Incredible Hulk actually had decent versions of Thor and Daredevil.
No.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they weren't as bad as the Captain America, but you know.
Oh, okay. Okay. So,
What do you see? There's enough
Next
variety
question.
to talk about.
I was like,
you're bringing all the things from the, we don't talk about category. The 90s Captain America movie? God, why?
Are there any comic book series that you guys would like to see turned into a movie? And if so, who would you want to do it?
I'm gonna talk it first.
oh, that's simple.
You're
Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, easily. Those two, those two with time travel shenanigans alone is worth it.
So, Legend, but a movie series.
Oh yeah. I mean, just have Brandon Roth actually go be Ted Kord, who he was supposed to be to begin with.
Yes!
And then I don't know, just for the Nathan Fillion as Booster Gold, just for, because they can make all the old jokes.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, I just kind of, but yeah, like
I mean, I would
they
love...
had their time. They had their time 3 times. in the
No,
theater.
no. Shattered Grid or the Boom Studios comic series, but take the actors we got for the most recent Power Rangers movie. Since Hasbro has them now, I'm definitely not sure we're gonna get a sequel for that.
No, they said they're working on it.
No, if they don't, if they change it up, keep the actors, because the actors made that movie. They brought that movie. Because we spent so much time with them outside of being Rangers and saw them grow and how they became worthy to get that power, they portrayed that very well.
Mm-hmm.
So having them be in that series and have the storyline play out like that, yeah, that comic book series as a movie with them, I'm there day one. Take all the money. Here you go. I'll camp out for it.
A good Green Lantern movie.
Oh yeah, that's it.
A versus X.
Okay.
I would like to see an A versus X.
Dear God.
Don't you know that's
I'll never-
season 6 or that's phase 6?
It is. I'm hoping
Well,
it is. But like,
now,
I keep,
with the-
you know, I keep
with the-
writing it in. I'm like, in my head. I sit there with my husband. I'm like, this is what's gonna happen. So what's gonna happen is.
You're about to introduce.
Well, I was going to say, with Marvel's movie track record of killing villains, at some point they're just like, all right, we're just going to start beef with that other team over there.
Yeah. See, Civil War we got was Civil War light. Kind of.
Yeah,
A little bit.
ish.
It was a training session in the airport.
It was. That's all it was.
That's
I
all
mean,
it was.
we just need Cyclops. I'm blaming everything on Cyclops.
There you go.
Everything is Cyclops'
That's
fault,
part of
you know?
that's the plot of Avengers vs. X-Men right there. All right, so what's the story? Scott did it. Done. Trailer. Written. Right there.
I just like in the actual comics, young Scott's like, so I'm Scott Summers, I'm not that Scott Summers. It's like, I am Cyclops, but I'm not that Cyclops.
Please don't lump me in it with him. It's nope.
If I could, I don't know if they do it right, and I guess The Matrix was, but The Invisibles by Grant Morrison, it's
Ooh.
still one of my favorite series. It's kind of
That's
his
interesting.
take on a secret society of X-Men. But if that were handled properly, that was one of the more diverse teams, I think, in comics, and it was a pretty cool team too, and I'd like to see that handled, but I don't think it ever will be.
No Retcon movie?
I don't think they could make it into a movie, or a TV show, but if they want to, they can go ahead and try. But I made it pretty specifically to be a comic, and it can only do things that only comics do, though.
Cool.
It could happen in the future.
If you had written it like a movie, why it's coming? Do you think they would have done it better at that point?
Maybe, if I fashioned it in that way, but what I really wanted to do was take advantage of the things that only comics can do, which is, there's some time aspects. I mean, you could probably do it in a film, but you wouldn't really be able to do it in a 2-hour film. Maybe it would be a series, something like that. But I didn't take the jaded approach to my creator-owned project that was, I want to make a movie or a TV show in comic book form. I wanted to make a comic book, and I almost challenged them to make a movie out of it. Go ahead and try.
Okay.
And you won't be able to. It's
Yeah,
too different.
that's one thing that I noticed as I was reading it with the panels. You know, they're really, really compelling, and I like the, you know, kind of, I guess the best way to describe it would be like the retro use of colors in it, and I found that the action sequences or even the vantage points were just very, very
That
compelling.
artist is special. He's a unique guy, and his ability is unique. And you'll never see him on anything more than a mini-series because he can't keep the schedules that it takes to do an ongoing series, which is maddening to most artists. He's gonna do, you know, his boutique stories here and there. I was lucky to get a hold. He was one of the first guys I worked with on an X-Men story back in like 1998. So we got back together again. That's Toby Cypress. He's a talented guy. I don't know what he's doing now. I think he's doing something called Grave Diggers Union, which is pretty cool too. That would probably be a movie.
Pretty awesome. Did you guys ever play any video games based off comic books?
Oh, tons.
Oh yeah.
Lots of Spider-Man games are actually pretty good.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Which ones are your favorites?
Actually, I'm currently playing X-Men Destiny. It's really not that great of a game.
It's not.
But it introduces everybody correctly. It lets you have your own power progression.
It made you think it was gonna be a good game. Then it wasn't.
Let me think.
Switcheroo.
Yeah.
Needless to say, all the Spider-Mans, for the most part, have been consistently good.
Nice.
The PlayStation ones have been fantastic. Spider-Man 2. Web of Shadows, I really love because I just love swinging around New York. It's like the most relaxing thing I can do. Shattered Dimension, I really love because I get to be one of my favorite versions of Spider-Man, which is 2099. And as soon as I lose another 20 pounds, that's the first Marvel costume I'll be doing is 2099. What else? The Arkham series, that goes without saying.
Yes.
The X-Men Legends, which eventually became, what is it, Avengers
Alliance.
Avengers Alliance, those
No,
were
Ultimate Alliance. There you go.
good dungeon crawlers.
Yeah, great.
I'll say Superman 64 just to acknowledge there was a Superman game.
No.
We're not talking about Aquaman Battle for Atlantis,
Why?
because that thing went immediately into the bargain bin like day 2.
There was one.
No, it got released, it was $49.99, and then literally, and I kid you not, because I worked at Toys R Us when this came out, the next day at work, they were all in the bargain bin for $2.99.
Yeah. I'm a button masher, so it's all arcade fighters for me. I'm very, very upset with Ultimate Marvel vs. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
We had Dragon Ball to correct that.
I'm glad because that game was horrendous. I was so angry. Like
Yeah.
I played through the story mode the first night, and then the next day I'm like, so what do I do now?
Yeah.
Well, you only had like 12 characters, and like this is coming off of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where you had like everybody was there.
Buttons.
You had at least 50 characters to choose from, and then, it was fun. It was like everybody had their favorite character, Deadpool had his quirky lines, so it was a fun game to play. Injustice is good. I like Injustice.
Injustice is very good.
Injustice is
Duh.
it's a very well balanced game.
Yes.
It's,
The DC Lego games are also very, very good.
yeah, the Lego games
I'll
in
admit
general are great.
My favorite is still Lego Batman 3 because it's just secretly a Green Lantern game. It actually really is, and the reason why I actually got to ask somebody this on Twitter. It's like, why was this not marketed as Green Lantern? Because it's very obviously a Green Lantern game. Because this came out right at that time where the animated movie came, or not the animated, the live action movie came out. It flooded the market, it made Green Lantern unfavorable. So we had to put it behind the Batman to ensure its profitability. So if you go through it, it's Lego Batman for like an hour, and then you're in space on Ismolt or Odin or Oa as Green Lantern, Red Lantern, Blue Lantern with the rest of the DC cast.
Nice. I mean, everything's been said. Injustice, the Arkham series. First arcade game was X-Men vs. Or at that point.
What about your Power Ranger games?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, you had Tournament Fighter. You had Tournament Fighter with all the Megazords on the Super Nintendo.
I didn't play that. Surprisingly,
That was really good.
They had one with like Super Legends. That was a like nice little like platformer.
Shogun Zord was broken in that Super Nintendo game. All you did was standing high punch and just drop the flaming saber over and over and over again.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of great games. Definitely, I played a lot. Spider-Man 2, the movie, the game. I mean, not only is it one of the greatest comic book movie sequels, like definitely in the top 5 of any list, but the game alone, you get to go from the first one where you just like swinging on not buildings because there's nothing in the sky for you to swing on, and if you drop down, you were done.
They learned that from the Fox animated.
Yeah. you went from that to free world, the fighting system, the super jump. Yeah, and you could live Peter's life. You take pizza, and if you jumped around a lot, it got jostled and you got messed up. And so playing that game after watching the movie, it's a definite one you can go back and play. Which I'm really, really excited for the new one.
You know that's the unedited script, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Spider-Man 2 is the unedited script of Spider-Man 2.
So everything in that game was supposed to be in that movie, which I mean makes that game even more better now. But I'm really excited for the new one. I'm getting vibes and feels from that game, so that's what makes me excited for that. And of course, they've added a bit of the Arkham style fighting, which the first game they kind of did that after playing Arkham series, which no one really talks about because it's technically an unfinished game. The Captain America game, the first one that came out when the first movie came out, it's actually a really, really decent Captain America game, which you've never really had because you have shield combat, you have, of course you have the quick time ones, we had to press the button a lot, but it was a very played down version of the Arkham Battle Simulator, but it was really, really good game. But no one ever talks about it because it played through the movie kind of up to a certain point and then didn't even finish it. It's like, okay, well, here's this mission and you're done. Like, what, no Valkyrie? No pushing Skull out of the plane? What? Mm-hmm. So that's why no one really talks about it as much. So yeah, that's a really good game.
Mr. Nixon's here. We do need to talk about the 2 absolutely fantastic Wolverine games.
Oh my god.
The X-Men 2 on the Nintendo 64, which was...
X-Men Wolverine?
No, this is the one that plays kind of like Metal Gear.
Okay.
Where you gotta use all Wolverine senses and it's all stealth kills.
Yeah.
And the Hugh Jackman Wolverine game based off...
the horror movie?
The bad movie, but great game.
Yeah.
The great PS3
The
game.
Origins movie.
Yeah.
PS2 game and the Xbox game, no. But if you got it on PS3, where they had the updated graphics at that point, it was
It's
fantastic.
looking good.
It was fan-freaking-tastic.
Should we point out the fun irony of Wolverine?
Do it.
That Wolverine was first introduced in, which one was it? Spider-Man's Amazing Friends? Or is it Pride of the X-Men?
Is this one where you're in Australia?
Yes, that's the fun irony.
Yeah, that's
Where
right.
Wolverine is Australian
So
instead of Canadian, and now he's got an Australian playing him.
before the X-Men animated series,
It's-
they tried their hand at a different animated series that featured Kitty Pryde instead of Jubilee, and they had Cyclops, Dazzler, Colossus, Storm, Nightcrawler, the classics. And Wolverine was there. He had his brown and yellow suit on, but he wasn't the bub Canadian talking guy we had at that point.
Crikey.
He was straight up
Crocodile
Australian. Like the accent was so heavy. And then years later, who should play him in the movies than a huge Australian? It is the perfect example of irony
And if you want to hear him, you can find Pride of the X-Men on the internet, on
Oh, yeah, it's
YouTube,
really
very
easy,
easily,
yeah.
but I do believe he does make an appearance in the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends X-Men crossovers,
Yeah.
the arcade one.
Yeah. God, that series. But yeah, so.
I think we've named all.
Yeah, oh yeah, Spider-Man 2, that's the one. I mean, that's the one I
It's king, man.
did it right.
See, now I'm gonna go and play it.
And just as a wrap-up question, are there any other insights on comics, comic stories, or comic characters impacting pop culture that you'd like to make?
So the impact on pop culture that I've seen, it's unbelievable what you guys have. When I was growing up, you had to dig around and look for little bits of, X-Men or little bits of Spider-Man. And even, back then, even if like, you saw like a marketing tie-in that was at the shelf at the grocery store, you had to have it because you wanted that picture of Spider-Man or whatever on that particular pack of crackers or whatever it was. But now the proliferation is amazing, and because of that, you're getting some of the best stories I've seen on TV or film. And like Luke Cage is a really good example of how they're doing that really well. I love the first season of Daredevil. Punisher is very good. These things are doing on Netflix are amazing, and what's happening in film, I can't believe what they're doing with Avengers and how well they're doing it, how well planned that all is.
Yeah.
You can't discount how smart it was for them to pull people out of the Marvel editorial offices like Kevin Feige and Joe Quesada and have them kind of help lead the creativity for the studio there, because it's making it all fit together. And you just know they have all of this beta testing done in comic books that they're ready to just unleash on people. And it just still surprises me. I knew the entire Infinity Gauntlet storyline. I was still surprised by the way they handled it.
Yeah.
So they can still throw curveballs at us old dogs, and it's still amazing. So what comic books have done is pretty much what I saw it doing, and that's why I wanted to be involved even when everybody's saying it's over and there's no reason to even bother getting involved now, because I always knew it had that potential, and now it's unbelievable. Everybody's got a convention, everybody's got a show, it's great, it's really a lot of fun.
DC will get there eventually. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. DC's going to get there because they got that new app they're announcing, which is their own
Yes.
streaming service.
So, if you haven't heard, I guess it's kind of like a free promo, but DC has created a streaming platform like Netflix, like Hulu, and it's all DC. Not only is it, old movies, old TV shows, or cartoons, they actually produce their own original content. So, a lot of us in 2011 were very upset when Young Justice, which is one of the most phenomenal, almost up there, top tier with Justice League animated series that come from DC in a long time, poof, canceled. Because they wasn't selling toys. Go buy toys. And so, and the fans pushed and pushed and pushed, and it's a point of not only, showcasing that they do listen to the fans, but it's a point of together in a correct, non-toxic way, Star Wars, in a correct, non-toxic way, you can achieve something together. We brought back Young Justice. The actors, they were petitioning like, hey guys, keep watching Young Justice on Netflix, keep watching, I think she's like that, yeah.
Yeah, chance.
Yeah, so keep watching Young Justice on Netflix, keep tweeting, keep showing pictures, and now we have season 3. So season 3 of Young Justice will premiere along with an original Titans series that's live action. It looks phenomenal. They're also doing a Swamp Thing, which is going to be a live action horror type show. They got a Harley Quinn animated series coming. So they have their own original content, and of course you have years, decades of DC content plus comics. You can actually read comics and stuff on there too. So it drops, I think, late August?
Sometime.
Yeah, so around that time, be looking out for it. I think it's definitely worth it. With the way cable's going out now, if you have Netflix, especially the same as Netflix, it's gonna be different. If you love DC, I actually think you would benefit from learning more about it. If you did get it. I think you would come to love DC a bit more, because there's a lot more than just the goofy. I mean, if you want something really awesome to
I
watch,
promise, there's more than Batman. There really
See,
is.
it's
but
hard to
then
get past the Batman.
but then
and the
there,
Superman
but then
stuff.
there is something like Batman. Batman Brave and the Bold is the greatest series to be introduced to.
I mean, I do love the new Harley Quinn series.
Yeah, that's gonna be so good. So like something like that.
Yeah.
If you want something that's fun and campy, Batman Brave and the Bold takes the 60s feel of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's like mixing the Adam West and it's like the Adam West Batman and
Yeah.
the Bruce Timm animated series into one thing, and it's all Silver Age.
Yeah, so,
So and
you have the campy, and then like Spider-Man, I said earlier, it introduces so many characters that have never been seen before.
you have Henry Winkler doing Ambush Bug.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they actually swap out John DiMaggio, who is
Yeah.
probably one of the best renditions of Aquaman, with Ted McGinley. And then they make him break character and talk about Married with Children in that episode. And talk about the Ted McGinley curse
So
in the
yeah,
episode.
so stuff like that. There's so much more in DC than the Dark that we've seen. Dark works for DC in some points, but there's so much more. I think this type of platform will definitely awaken that love for DC as.
I mean, DC is doing well with their small series. I mean, I think they're getting a little. I still believe that they're over ambitious with their movies. They're trying to.
That's putting it mildly.
That's debatable. I mean, we could sit here all day and talk about what's wrong with DC movies, but
2 out of 3 ain't bad, and number 2's not in the theater yet.
I'm so sad. I had so much hype for Justice League, which I love. I love Justice League. For what we got, and they can attest to this, I was hyped that whole week. Like I was on a hype level that was like a notch below what my high level was for Infinity War. So we get there, we're watching it, and when we get done, I'm like, that was amazing. That was my fan talk. Now, being a upcoming writer and video producer and all that stuff, while my fan was talking, yeah, you can immediately see the flaws, see the 2 changes from directors and everything, but I still loved it.
And the villain had 0 character.
We don't talk about Stephen. He's literally not even there. He's not real. CGI. All they had to do was take a guy just as buff as Henry Cavill, put a horn helmet on him. You good. But no, we got CGI. And I think that was one of the biggest thing. My biggest downside. That was really it. Everything else they did, could have been up and down.
We got Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Wonder Woman's probably the same.
She is the same. Booyah. Cyborg. They made Cyborg work. And I was really, because I cosplay Cyborg, I didn't bring him today, but I wasn't really feeling how they made him look when I first saw the trailer and everything. Putting that aside, going in and see how he was portrayed, I didn't care at that point.
Which was the good Perez, Wolfman,
Yeah.
which one am I, man or machine?
Yeah. So again, it all comes down to characters can look or be a certain way, but if the actor brings the best of that character out, the best of a certain run of that character out, that's all I care about.
I think it's kind of the rough end that DC's getting is that like Marvel has groomed us with the last 10 years.
This is true.
That
We're spoiled.
we get to know the characters before they're all combined.
Yeah.
So like that's why Wonder Woman is working out better than the rest of the Justice League.
Yep.
Is because we have separate Wonder Woman movies. We had separate Batman movies, so we know who Batman is. We know who Wonder Woman is. Well, what do we know of Cyborg? Teen Titans.
And people complain like, oh, they're just copying the Marvel Cinematic Universe. No, they weren't, because if they did, they'd be a lot better than they are now. Literally, push back Justice League a couple years. I would have been worth the wait. Give me a Cyborg movie first. Give me an Aquaman movie first.
There's a Teen Titans Go movie later this next month.
I hate you so much. And then, honestly, not having a Flash movie before him would have been perfect. Because how they did him in the movie was akin to how they did Spider-Man in Civil War. He's that young soul among all the. So you've got a Cyborg who may have had his adventure already or his story, and then you have Aquaman who, the way they wrote that movie, it seemed like he already had an adventure, and they kind of played it out, it didn't really work out. But have those movies come before, and then introduce maybe Flash and Cyborg as the two younger recruits. You got these 3, 4 older who've been around, and then bring them together. And then stop stepping with instead of leaving the box unattended for, I'm sorry.
Let's go back to the whole comics versus movies thing though, but I think DC is actually doing better than
Yes.
Marvel right now because people are actually, they're going to see the DC movies and they're not getting what they wanted, so they're thirsty for a storyline, so now they're going back to the comics.
Labor scale.
Yep.
Video games. DC, Marvel. Animation.
Now DC.
Movies. Video games. There are video games?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Comics.
They're about even.
They're about even. I mean, with the,
They're
with
about even.
Flashpoint, with the new 52 and stuff like that.
Rebirth pushed them ahead.
Rebirth, it's giving people a fresh,
Rebirth was so good.
it's giving people somewhere to start off
It's
with.
not that Rebirth pushed them ahead, it's the fact that, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, it's Marvel has killed half of its audience by either overflooding the market with books that just no one wants or massive event fatigue because
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've been hopping from event to event for almost a decade and
We had
a half.
what?
It's been
6?
event fatigue, and they've been turfing the X-Men deliberately because of the Fox deal.
Yeah.
And Fan 4.
Well, I mean, yeah, so you lose 2 of the main teams in the... When you're watching something like the Avengers, to just have a glimpse of, we need to talk to Reed from the Fantastic Four real quick to get a beat on what we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Just that kind of stuff lifts it all up, and as far as the comics have gone, they've done everything they can to turf those characters and bring the Indians up to X-Men level, and it just didn't work.
My running theory is the Four Freedoms Plaza is literally behind Avengers Tower. We just never see it.
Well,
Because you
Or-
only have that
They
front
bought
shot.
it.
You never see behind it. It's literally that's behind.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
right
shadow.
there.
Everybody set it up that way.
If funny story that would have happened had they done it right, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man series, before Avengers came out, they wanted to have Oscorp be a couple buildings down from Avengers Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, by that point, they were done filming. It was too late. But if they had played that out right and played out that movie series right, it'd been great. My vision for the Andrew Garfield series would have been the first 3, Spider-Man, Peter Parker. Introduce Miles in the last one, and then have the last 3 be about Miles.
Mm-hmm.
Then of course you got your little spin-offs and stuff, the Sinister Six and Black Cat and all that stuff. But it would have been progression, and you would have been able to show a Spider-Man in that mentor role, which is kind of what we're getting in the new movie, with him, showing up with Miles and talking and all that stuff. But I think that would have been a great progression for that series. And then, of course, had they tied it into the MCU.
I mean, it's interesting to see where it goes. Like, I think Miles is crucial to the innovation
Yeah.
of the current storyline, the current.
I
Definitely.
mean, he's so crucial already. They've already dropped a name hint of him in the Tom Holland movie.
I have
Yeah.
a nephew. His name's Miles.
Wait a minute.
And then, of course, Cindy was in half a shot
She was like in half a shot,
in the
so.
movie, getting on the bus going to Washington. So the characters are there. All it takes is a little bit of.
Even in
Disney
the
magic.
upcoming video game, I guarantee you, we're gonna have a time with Miles because Mr.
They-
Megan will get a hold of Spider-Man.
They actually dropped that in the original first trailer.
Yeah.
It was Genki's character. It was like, hey Miles, come on. I was like, there he is right there. So, I mean, he's become such an integral part to the Spider-Man lore that I honestly couldn't see a world without him now because he's one of the first changes you saw. I was like, oh, Spider-Man was this pasty white kid who's super nerdy. Now we've got this, half black, half Latino character, and oh no, but after they started reading him and how they portrayed him, he's one of the most beloved characters right there behind Parker now. So I honestly couldn't see. I think he was that driving push to add more diversity
Yeah, he was definitely.
to comics. Because without him, I mean, if you want to look at somebody else, look at Riri Williams.
Let's not go down that road. No, seriously, let's not go down that road because that opens up a can of worms. We will be here for another 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just opens up. He was the first essentially the first, to open up that bridge for
Minorities, yeah.
for minorities, a change in status quo. Okay, well, Spider-Man's not Peter Parker anymore. It's this new kid, and there's a Spider-Man in the main universe. Well, they can meet it. It opened up so many lanes, which I absolutely love. So
And as cosplayers,
yeah,
it makes a huge difference.
yeah, definitely.
It's amazing. Like, it's not like, oh, you're Black Spider-Man,
Yeah.
you're White Spider-Man. Like, oh no, you're Peter Parker, you're Miles, So like, the kids react to it differently, the adults react to it differently,
Yeah.
and there's more that you can cosplay. I mean, at the end of the day, you can cosplay whoever you want, but
Exactly.
it feels better.
Yeah,
It feels better being able to cosplay somebody that you can look in the mirror and actually relate to.
I do Kingpin, and from just that statement, which Kingpin do you think I do? There's only 2 live action ones. Which one do you think I do? Just off the top of that.
Kellogg.
I always mix his 2 last names with Michael Clark Duncan.
Wrong. That was the initial one that everyone thought I was gonna do. No,
He's my favorite.
I do the one from Netflix. I do I'm gonna smash your head in the car.
I do like that aspect of it, but I've never liked Vincent D'Onofrio,
let's see,
so.
hang on.
It's not good though, isn't it?
I
Yeah.
want to make this city something better than it is. Something beautiful. You took that away from me. You took everything. I'm gonna kill you.
It's very good, man.
Yeah,
And then you can go stare at a wall for that for hours.
But yeah, like that. I mean, I love Michael Clark. Don't get me wrong, but that performance is what made me want to do that version. Now I will go back and do the full white suit with the cane. I might even throw in the comments with the little. Originally, he had like a little. No, that's Shadow King. I'm sorry, that's Shadow King.
Yeah, Shadow King.
But yeah, so I will admit to do that. But when people see me in the all black and the black shirt, like, oh, hey, you're Kingpin. Like, yeah, it's like, and don't even say which one, because there's no. I'm just Kingpin.
Yep.
So
see, me personally, the Kingpin is the only reason I will watch Daredevil. The only reason.
have you seen them? The
Is-
series?
Do what?
Have you seen the Netflix series?
Oh yes. But as far as the movie goes,
Yeah.
the only reason to watch that is his character, because I loved him as the Kingpin, like just his stature and like whenever he's there with the
Yeah.
cane.
Are you sure it's not the
No.
Evanescence soundtrack?
Stop it.
I'm pretty sure it's not that.
That's another one we don't. That's another one in that kind of we don't discuss
We don't acknowledge
much.
it, we don't wipe it from the slate.
I mean, we'll acknowledge the director's cut, but maybe.
On that note, guys, I got to wrap it up. But thank you so much for being a part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, man. It was great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Sorry that we ran with it.
Yeah, so very nice to meet you, man.
Thank you.
Oh.